वागीशाद्याः सुमनसः सर्वार्थानामुपक्रमे यं नत्वा कृतकृत्यास्यस्तन्नमामि गजाननं शारदा शारदाम्भोजवदना वदनाम्बुजे सर्वदा सर्वदास्माकं सन्निधिं क्रियात् शास्त्राब्धिपारदृश्वानं सङ्गहीनं तपोनिधिं भजे श्रीभारतीतीर्थगुरुं भद्रोगदायकं विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विधुशेखरभारतीम् यत्पादाम्बुजचिन्तनं तनुमतां सन्तानशाखायते भाष्यं यद्भणितं चिरन्तनगवी हय्यङ्गवीनायते यस्याज्ञाखिललोकमौलिवलभिः मालासु मालायते तस्मै शङ्करदेशिकाय नमसां साहस्रमाशास्महे नमः कोदण्डहस्ताय सन्धीकृतशराय च खण्डिताखिलदैत्याय रामाय आपन्निवारिणे. With namaskaras to the Padapadmas of the Ubhay Jagat Gurus. It seems I'm once again apologizing for the delay in this talk. This was supposed to come on Shashti, on the day when, after the 5 days of Shankara Jayanti in Sringeri traditionally, starting from Pratipat, as per the Agnya of the 33rd Jagat Guru, Shri Satchidananda Shivabhinama Nrsimha Bharati Mahaswami. It is tradition, not just in Sringeri but across India, that Shankara Jayanti celebrations start from Pratipat on Prathama of Vaishakha Shukla Paksha and continue until Panchami. So in Sringeri also the same takes place. There are Bhashya Parayanas, Grantha Parayanas, Shankara Digvijaya Parayana, etc. take place during the 5 days of the Shankara Jayanti Utsavas, as well as the Veda Sabhas and Veda Parikshas. And on the 6th day, so that is once after the day after Shankara Jayanti, on Shashti, there is a Rathotsava for Bhagavatpada, and this is a very special Rathotsava because although there are many Rathotsavas in Sringeri, there is Durgamba Rathotsava, Sharadamba's Rathotsava, Malahanakareshwara's Rathotsava, there are many Rathotsavas, but you will not have as many Veda Panditas in those Rathotsavas as we have for Bhagavatpada's Rathotsava. So the Rathotsava of Bhagavatpada is a very special one that takes place on Shashti. So this talk was originally scheduled for then, but because of various tasks that I had to do, both in the Matha, this has been slightly postponed. So thank you all for bearing with that. The topic that had been given by Acharya for this is the overlap between Yogavasishtha and Bhagavatpada's Granthas, Rachanas. So it is a very large topic, but we will discuss it as time permits. So just to kind of understand what it is that we're talking about. In the gamut of Vedantic literature, you can more or less put texts into two categories. There are some texts, Vedantic texts, that are meant to be proper Shastra Granthas, that is to say they are meant to be dialectic, scholastic, scholarly pieces of work. And then there are some that are meant for sadhakas. So Vedanta itself, as I'm sure most of you know, has two faces. So there is one face as in the scholarly determination of Vedanta, right? Because the word Vedanta itself actually means Upanishad. It means the holding of the Vedas, the final purport of the Vedas. So a good deal of Vedanta is devoted towards discerning what the Vedantas are saying as a whole. And you have some places where it seems like there are many Atmas. There are some places where it seems clear that there is one Atma. There are some places where it seems that Jivatma is clearly separate from Paramatma. There are some places where it seems that they are both the same. There are some places where it seems that Maya and Avidya are separate. There are some places where it seems that Maya and Avidya are the same. So, the Upanishads are varied and they present the Paramartha in various ways. So, a good deal of Vedanta or Vedantic texts are devoted to figuring out what the purport, right, as a cohesive group, what the Upanishads are telling us. And obviously we have texts like the Brahma Sutras, etc., and all the Vyakhyanas and Upavyakhyanas that have come for that piece of literature. And that aside, you have the Upanishads, Gita, then you have some Vada Granthas, whereas in you have Advaitins refuting the views of Dvaitins, Madhva Tantra, Mukhamardana, Advaita Siddhi, there are texts like this also. So this is one type, this is one genre of text. You have things, then you have many texts of Apaya Dikshitendra, right? There is one text called Shastra Siddhanta Lesha Sangraha, where Apaya Dikshitendra has basically, he takes up each topic of Vedanta and discusses all the ways in which Advaita Acharyas have discussed the same thing. So for example, we say that the Brahman that we are talking about in Vedanta is the Jagat Karana. So how have all the different Acharyas talked about Jagat Karanatva? What does Karanatva entail? So that is discussed. Then some Acharyas say that Shuddha Brahma is the Jagat Karana. Some Acharyas say that Ishvara, right? That is basically what we would call Saguna Brahma. Right? Ishvara is the Jagat Karana. Then other people say that no, Ishvara and Jiva are both the Jagat Karana. Ishvara is the Karana for the Sthula Prapancha and Jiva is the Karana for the Antara Prapancha, it is called. Then some people say no, we will take Drishti Srishtivada and say that the Jiva is the cause for the entire cosmos, Bahya, Antara, whatever you want to call it. Other people will say that Vyavaharika and Paramarthika things are, Brahman is Paramarthika, the Vyavaharika Jagat is created by Ishvara, the Pratibhasika Jagat, that is the Swapna Prapancha, is created by the Jiva. So all of these different Pakshas are shown. So this is a very Shastric mode of dealing with Vedanta. So these all fall into one category of Vedantic texts. The second category of Vedantic texts are those which are conducive to the sadhaka, right? So it is one thing to debate the meaning of the Upanishads and to say this means that and that means this and this can happen and that cannot happen, therefore this is right, that is not right, this is what this means, this is what that means. This entire vichara, right, this entire mode of inquiry is one thing, but it is one thing, it is a completely different thing to get that tattva into anubhava, to make it from paroksha jnana into aparoksha, right? So the words itself, the word paroksha means something that is experienced through someone else's indriyas, right? So this is not pratyaksha, whereas what you want to end up with in Vedanta is that the Jiva Brahmaikya that is discussed in the Upanishads, you want to be able to experience that firsthand. So there are many texts that we have in the span of Advaita Vedanta that are devoted to guiding the sadhaka along the path of what it is that he needs to do to get closer and closer to that final goal. So there comes the book Yogavasishtha. So this is the teachings of Vashishta to Rama, set right before Rama leaves with Vishwamitra for the Yaga Rakshana. So Vishwamitra is staying in Siddhashrama, where Vamana Murti did tapas, and he is doing a yaga there. These Maricha and Subahu and Tataka are all causing vignas to that yaga. So he comes to Dasharatha to ask for Rama to come and protect the yaga. At that point of time, Rama's mind is perturbed. So he has finished his studies, general studies under Vashishta Maharshi, and he is extremely disenchanted with the world. He says, what use is there with all of this? What is the point of pravritti? So much maya and avidya is there, so much suffering is there in the world. What is the point of all of this? So it is at that point, just as we can almost say Krishna taught Gita to Arjuna, that Vashishta Maharshi teaches Vedanta to Rama, and that is what we have obtained today as Yogavasishtha. It is a massive text. It is a very vast text, and there are so many shlokas in it and so many topics and so many stories. This Yogavasishtha has always been a favorite text of the Sringeri Jagadgurus, in the sense that each Acharya has always been very fond of this text. From we have records of 32nd, 33rd Acharyas in their day-to-day vyavahara. Forget about Acharyas writing books that refer to Yogavasishtha, but just in the way that when we see Yogavasishtha referred to by the Acharya themselves in certain incidents, up to Sannidhanam Varu today, who Acharya himself has told me many stories from the Yogavasishtha that are very pertinent and that have very, very potent tatparyas to draw away from. So this has always been a favorite of the Acharyas because it is so closely wedded to the idea of Vedanta sadhana. So for anyone that actually wants to walk the path of Vedanta, not know the path of Vedanta, but walk the path of Vedanta, this Yogavasishtha is a first class text to do that. And obviously, as I said, the topic that Acharya gave is to discuss the connection between Yogavasishtha and Bhagavatpada's texts. Yogavasishtha is massive, the span of Bhagavatpada's texts is quite massive. So with the time that I have and also with the limited potential that we have, I have thought that what we will do is, there is one specific part of Yogavasishtha that tells some things that are quite conducive to sadhakas, as I said. And then a very similar text is Viveka Chodamani. So Viveka Chodamani also, although there are some Shastriya Vicharas there, it is also probably one of the most conducive texts of Bhagavatpada for sadhakas. Right? So this Sutra Bhashya, Upanishad Bhashya, these are all written on a scholarly level. But if a sadhaka wants, a helping hand or a guide, then Viveka Chodamani is one of the best texts that Bhagavatpada has composed to help the sadhaka in those matters. So there is one vichara that is there in Yogavasishtha, and it is almost as though Bhagavatpada has completed that vichara in Viveka Chodamani. So it is like in Yogavasishtha part A has been told and part B has been discussed in Viveka Chodamani. So I thought that if we put these two together, it will be one bridge between Yogavasishtha and Viveka Chodamani, and if time permits in the future, we can look at more such overlaps. And one more thing is there, that some of these shlokas have actually found a lot of, in Yogavasishtha, some of these shlokas have become very popular amongst people that study Vedanta. So we will see some of those also. Before we actually look at the text, as I said, the Sringeri Acharyas have always been very fond of the shlokas here, of Yogavasishtha as a text as a whole. So just to maybe give one example of that, the 33rd Acharya, as we said, the Jagadguru Shri Shivabhinama Nrsimhabharati Mahaswamiji, who is fondly referred to as, fondly and with reverence referred to as Abhinava Shankara, in Acharya's early days. So once Acharya had taken sannyasa from the 32nd Jagadguru of the Pitha, Vruddha Nrsimhabharati Mahaswami, so the 33rd Acharya took sannyasa in Mysore, and as they finished the yatra together and then came back to Sringeri, the 33rd Acharya, so Abhinava Nrsimhabharati Mahaswamiji, had intense vairagya in his heart. So Acharya basically wanted to leave the Pitha, leave everything, and just roam the forests of Sringeri without a second care, without any thought of the body, without any thought of the mind, without any thought for anything lokika, just to revel in the Atmananda and to not think about the world at all. But the 32nd Acharya, the Vruddha Nrsimhabharati Swami, his guru, would continue to remind him that although you are a Brahmanishtha, there is still a duty that you have to the Pitha and a duty that you have to Sanatana Dharma. I have chosen you for a reason. This is, if for nothing else, this is the Guru's command. So you must stay in this Pitha. There will be time for you to do Dhyana. There will be time for you to do Anushtana. There will be time for you to do Atmanasandhana. But there is also a duty you have towards the Shishyas of this Pitha and towards Sanatana Dharma as a whole, for which you cannot just roam off in the woods of Sringeri. You will have to stay on the Pitha and perform your duties as Jagadguru. So when his guru told him in this manner, the 33rd Acharya then quotes one shloka from this Yogavasishtha that Rama tells to Vashishta Maharshi. So Vashishta Maharshi basically says, you should not be so despondent, you should not despair, such Rama, but rather you should work, you should put forth an effort to overcome this sorrow and dejection and to do your duty. To which Rama responds, and this is the shloka that the 33rd Acharya tells his guru, Praktanam vasanajalam niyojayati mam yatha tathaiva tishtami mune kripanah kim karomyaham. This is a very beautiful shloka. What Rama here is saying to Vyasa Maharshi is, to Vashishta Maharshi is, this Praktanam vasanajalam. So I have certain vasanas, right? So over the course of many lives and many births, I have accumulated certain vasanas, certain tendencies that stick to the antahkarana, right? So when one body is left, what goes from one body to the next is the antahkarana. The antahkarana and the bhuta sukshmas are what they are called. So the antahkarana and the indriyas go from one body to the next. So in that antahkarana, are embedded the Vasanas, right? The seeds of the Raga Dveshas that the Jiva has accumulated over the course of the innumerable janmas that he has taken up. So all of those Vasanas combined, Yatha Mam Niyojayati, however it is that they compel me to act, Tathaiva Tishtami, I act in that way. However they force me to behave, however those Vasanas force me to behave, I behave in the same way. So there Kripana Kim Karomiham, I am a Kripana. A Kripana here means someone that is destitute, poor, helpless. So what is it that I can do? And this is actually a question that many of us have, right? So if it is that the mind is what, so we need to act, right? For anything to happen, we need to act. Our action is set by the mind, right? It is not like the body can just, a dead body cannot do anything. It needs a mind to set the agenda for what the body has to do. And how does the mind do that? The mind will think and decide, and it wants to do what is favorable, and it will try to shun what is unfavorable. And what decides what is favorable or unfavorable? It is the vasanas that the mind has, right? The raga dveshas that it has accumulated. So at the end of the day, how independent is the mind? Can you really claim that the mind has independence? If the mind does not have independence, then does the body's actions have independence? If the body's actions do not have independence, then how do the jiva's actions have independence? So it is because of these vasanas that you will see some people saying that the jiva is actually quite bound, in that there is no free will of the jiva. The jiva cannot do anything but what his own vasanas incite him to do. So this is one pradha that is there in the world. This is one feeling that is there in the world. But honestly, if that were the case, then what is the point of sadhana, right? If we are stuck with the mindset that you are born with, then all sadhana is hopeless, all training is hopeless, all mental training is hopeless, japas are hopeless, tapas are hopeless, right? So that is obviously not the case. So anyway, Rama is saying here that however my vasanas push me, that is how I will be acting, that is how I will be behaving. So what can I do? This is the same shloka that was told by the by Sachidananda Shivavinaswami Bharati Mahaswamiji to Vridhanswami Bharati Mahaswamiji, saying, my mind is pushing me towards Vairagya, my mind is pushing me towards Ekanta, my mind is pushing me towards, being detached from the world. So how can I do anything else? And then obviously, as we know, the Acharya, being a Mahapurusha, later went on to be one of the greatest jewels amongst Jivan Muktas and Brahmajnanis that this world has ever seen. So that aside, this part, it is called Mumukshu Vyavahara Prakaranam. That is the part of this text that we are looking at. So basically, how does a Mumukshu behave? What are the qualities of a Mumukshu, or what are discussed later? But the part that I want to discuss is exactly this, the topic of Vasanas. So our mental tendencies, how do they control us? How do we control them? What are the natures of those tendencies? So that is what we'll be looking at in this Yogavasishtha, and then we'll see a kind of supplement to this in Viveka Chudamani also. The two gel together quite well. So here Vashishta Maharshi, this adhyaya started by Vashishta Maharshi, and we'll just look at the shlokas that are relevant. So Vyasa Maharshi is basically saying, Rama, I agree with you that there is rampant avidya in the world. I agree with you that the grip of Maya is very strong. I agree with you that this world leads you towards dukkha, and I also agree that the general tendency of the mind is also to drag you down into samsara, wherein you will get even more dukkha. But it is not right to grieve over this. So you should not give up hope. You should not say, well, this is it, we are stuck, here we are in this world. So that is why Vashishta Maharshi starts off by saying, Sarvada sarvameveha samsare raghunandana samyak pariktat sarvena paurushat samavapyate. This last line, paurushat samavapyate. You will get everything through paurusha. Paurusha basically means human effort. So the point of this next few, the part that we'll be looking at is that this paurusha, human effort, can be used to change the path of vasanas. So yes, vasanas do dictate what we do, but we can also dictate what our vasanas are. There are ways to change the path of vasanas. There are ways to pick and to not just be beholden to the vasanas, but also to apply some viveka to it, right? Some discernment to it. So there Vasishta Maharshi is giving us a method to bring about that viveka. Uchchastram shastritam chetid vividham paurusham smritam tatra uchchastram anarthaya paramarthaya shastritam. So there are two ways that you can put forth your effort. Paurusham dvidham smritam. So efforts are of two kinds. Efforts that are as per Shastra and efforts that are contrary to Shastra. Right? So if you are doing something, it is either as per Dharma or it is contrary to Dharma. So let us say you want more money, you want to earn more money. So you have to put effort to earn that money. There is a Shastric way to do it, right? You do whatever duty you have, and then you will get whatever money you get for that, whatever compensation you get for that. This is the Shastric way. The Uchchastra, the way that is contrary to Dharma, is you find a nice bank and you rob it. Right? So for any effort, there will be a Shastric way and a non-Shastric way. So what are the difference? What is the difference in the end result between the Shastric yatna and the Ashastrik prayatna? So there it is clearly said that Uchchastram anarthaya, the prayatna that the Purusha does, the efforts that the Jiva puts forth that are contrary to Shastra will eventually lead to dukkha, whereas that which is done as per Shastra will lead to Shreyas. It will eventually lead to Sukha and then thereby to your upliftment. So therefore, what Vyasa Maharshi says is, there are some things that you should inculcate from a young age. So if you inculcate those, you will ensure that all the prayatnas that you do are Shastrik. So what are those things? Abalyat alam abhyastaihi shastra satsangamadibhi gunaihi purushayatnena swarthas samprapyate hitaha. Hitaswarthas samprapyate. You will obtain those ends that are beneficial to you. If you do what? Abalyat alam abhyastaihi. So this is actually interesting prayoga in Sanskrita. So abhyastair alam will usually mean enough. You should not enough with these things that are practiced. But here alam means well. So alam abhyastaihi means well practiced. So what should be well practiced? Shastra satsanga madibhihi. One is the study of the Shastras. Shastra means you should know at least what is in Shastra, what is proper and what is improper. The second thing is, you cannot learn everything through reading. There is no one on this earth that can know everything that exists in every single text. So therefore, satsangama, satsangatya. So if you devote some time of your day to study, to at least knowing what is in our tradition, and the second, to consorting with people who are well versed in Shastra and who know Dharma, right? Ye tatra brahmana sammarshinaha yukta ayukta aloksha dharma kamasyuho yathate tatra varteran dha tatra vartetha is what Veda is also telling us. So those brahmanas, those dharmatmas, ye sammarshinaha, they have good vichara, they can discern what is good and what is bad. Aluksha means aruksha, they are not harsh, they are good hearted. Dharma kamaha, they are ever engaged in dharma. So yathate tatra varteran, however it is that such good people would act in situations, tatha tatra vartethaha, you should act in that way. So if we have sangatya with sajjanas, if we keep company with good people, their actions, their qualities, their tendencies, their thought processes will be grasped by us. So that is why Shastra satsangamadhi gunaihi purushayatnena. So along with these, if you put forth your prayatna, then hitaha swarthaha samprapyate, then you will obtain beneficial fruits. And then Rama says, well, that is true, but if my vasanas are pushing me one way, how can I do something else? To which Vashishta Maharshi says that you are quite right in saying that the vasanas play a big role in dictating our actions, but these vasanas themselves are twofold. Right? It is not like all vasanas are continuously pushing you downwards. Right? So there is no one in this world that has zero punya and all papa, or all papa, or zero papa and all punya. Right? The very fact that we have a manava sharira means it is a combination of punya and papa. So there is no one that will say my vasanas are 100% papa vasanas. There is no one that can say my vasanas are 100% punya vasanas. Right? So it means bhuloka, right? Being born as a manushya means that this janma is meant to experience sukha and dukkha. So if only sukha is there to be experienced, it is swarga. If only dukkha is there to be experienced, naraka. If there is a mix of sukha and dukkha to be experienced, a manushya sharira will be given and he will take birth in this manushya loka, in the physical realm, right? In the worldly realm. So if you are here, it is because you need to experience sukha and dukkha, which are accrued to punya and papa, the performance of which will give you punya vasanas and papa vasanas. So there is no question of saying I have only Papa Vasanas or I have only Punya Vasanas. Right? So it is, you cannot just say that my Vasanas will keep pushing me down and down, so the situation is helpless. So that is why Vashishta Maharshi is saying, Vividho Vasana Vyuhaha Shubhascha Ashubhascha Te Praktano Vidyate Rama Dvayor Ekatarothava Vasanogena Shuddhena Tatrashed Apaniyase Tatkramena Shubhenaiva Padam Prapsyasi Shashvatam. That is what Vyasa Maharshi is saying. Dvidho Vasana Vyuhaha Shubhaschaiva Ashubhascha. So Vasanas are twofold. There are some Shubha Vasanas. So this is what we call Punya Vasanas and Ashubha Vasanas, Papa Vasanas. So how are these Vasanas obtained? So anything is obtained through repetition. So when we do any karma, the types of karmas that we repeat the most are the Vasanas that we develop. Right? So if a child just eats sugar once, it will not develop attachment to sugar. But if it eats sugar twice or thrice, then a liking for sugar will start. Or in the same way, the reverse, bitter gourd. Most children do not like bitter gourd. So maybe the first time that much dvesha will not be there. It may not like it. The child may not like bitter gourd the first time. But twice or thrice, if it is force-fed, if the child is force-fed bitter gourd, then it will develop a vasana that bitter gourd is bad. Right? The mental imprint will fall. So for any vasana to be imprinted in the mind, you basically need repetition. So whatever karmas are done again and again, those vasanas will be imprinted. That is why our Purvajas, that is why in our daily routine also, our forefathers have ensured that good tasks are part of our daily routine. See, everyone will do something or the other wrong every day. We cannot live 100% pollution-free life. That being said, we should do our best. The entire gamut of Sanatana Dharma's lifestyle is that you need to maximize punya and minimize papa. You need to maximize sadgunas and minimize durgunas. So, which is why in our daily routine, our nitya naimittika karmas are engineered such that it is supposed to get you used to doing satkarma. So, if you are used to doing satkarma on a regular basis, that will give you sadvasanas, thereby leading you to a sanmarga. Whereas it will take you away from asat karma, which would lead you to asad vasanas, which would lead you down the asan marga. So in this way, it is recommended therefore that we only do sat karma. So this yajnadana tapaschaiva pavana, yajnadana tapaschaiva pavanani manishanam. That is why Bhagavan says that in Gita. So if we are doing karma tyaga, you are saying that karma tyaga is good. Should I get rid of these also? Arjuna asks. Bhagavan says absolutely not. Yajnadanan tapas natyajyam karyameva tata. Yajnadana tapah karma natyajyam karyameva tata. You should not get rid of those, but you must do them. Why? Yajnadanan tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Because these bring about pavanatva. They bring about shuddhi, chitta shuddhi. So without those you will not be purified. What do we mean by chitta shuddhi? We mean, when we say chitta shuddhi, we mean the removal of all asadvasanas. Honestly, that is in chitta shuddhi. So whatever it is that could cause us to act in an improper way, all of that needs to be removed. Only then can you say that you have a pure mind. Right? So what is it that causes you to do adharma is papa vasanas. So once those papa vasanas are removed, it can be said that you have chitta shuddhi. And those yajnadana tapah karma, so those danas, yajnas, these pujas, vratas, these are all meant to help you inculcate that chitta shuddhi. So that is why Vyasa Maharshi is saying that those vasanas are twofold. The vasanas that are born of those karmas are twofold. There is the sadvasana and asadvasana. So vasanoghena shuddhena yadi apaniyase. If you there also Vyasa Maharshi, Vashishta Maharshi is agreed with Rama, saying that you are correct. Vasanas will take you, but you need to choose which vasanas will take you. So if you are apaniyase, if you are carried away by Shuddhena Vasanoghena, if you are carried away by the Shuddha Vasanas, if you are carried away by the Sadvasanas, then Tatkramena Shubhena, by Shubha Krama, so then the path itself will become Shubha and Padam Prapsasi Shashvatam. In the end, you will get to that permanent Ananda, that is the end goal of this Vedanta. And the flip side, Atha Ched Ashubho Bhavaha Tvam Yojeti Sankate. So if the Asadvasanas will force you to work, then what should you do? You should not say, well, this is it. It was nice knowing myself. We are at the end of the line. What should happen then? Praktanas tadaso yatra jetavyaha bhavata swayam. You should try to overcome that vasana. We will talk about how that vasana can be overcome. And then Vashishta Maharshi says one thing that, this statement is something to remember. Shubha shubhabhyam margabhyam vahanti vasana sarit paurushena prayatnena yojaniya shubhe pathi. So we can think of these vasanas as a river, vasana sarit. So because the mind is always flowing. What do we mean by flowing? It is always changing. Right? The mind is not the same from second to second. Every time we get new experiences, every time we interact with new people, every time we take in new information, everything, the brain processes new stimuli. The mind is continually changing, and it's shaping and reshaping the way it views this world. It is shaping and reshaping what it considers priorities and what it considers things that are not priorities. So as every second gives us new information, the mind is constantly in a state of change, right? It is always prioritizing, it is always making sense of the data that it is taking in. So in such a way, this vasana sarita, right, the imprints of the mind are just flowing. They accumulate over time, but it flows in two channels. It will flow in the Shubha Marga and Ashubha Marga. Shubha Shubhabhyam Margabhyam Ahanti Vasana Sarita. So what should you do? Just as a farmer, so there will be a river, it will be flowing. So if a farmer wants the river to come to his field to water the crops, what does he need to do? With his own effort, right? He should not just sit in front of the river and pray to the river. He needs to put a lot of effort, dig a channel, dig a culvert, make sure that the banks are stable, that the bank does not collapse on the channel itself, make sure that the channel itself is clean, and that the channel leads into his crop fields, and that the field itself is made in such a way that irrigation will happen to all parts of the field. So the farmer has to do all of this with his own effort. So just as by the farmer, see, the river flowing is guaranteed. See, just as we said that the vasanas causing you to act is guaranteed, in the same way here in this example the river flowing is guaranteed, but you need to make it flow in the place where it is most conducive to your activities, right? So the farmer needs to make the river flow where he will get the benefit, that is to say where the crops will be irrigated, and he can get a good bounty at the end of the harvest season. So in the same way, this vasana sarit also, this stream of vasanas will be flowing in one way. It is your job to dig the stream, to dig the channel that you want it to flow in. And actually this statement, just a nice way to see across Shastras how this works is, the Shubha Shubhabhyam Margabhyam Mahante Vasana Sarita Paurushena Prayatnena Yojaniya Shubhe Pathi. Pretty much the same thing, not in a shloka but as a statement. So Vividha Vahini Khalu Vasana Sarita Khalu Chitta Sarita. Some exact statement like this comes in the Vyasa Bhashya to the Yoga Sutras. So for the Yoga Sutras, Vyasa Maharshi has written one vritti, one Vyakhya. So in the beginning, it's in the first few sutras, Vyasa Maharshi has written pretty much exactly this. So we can even say that maybe this was inspired by that, or that was inspired by this. So when Vashishta Maharshi says this, then he needs to provide more examples of what to do. So there Vyasa Maharshi says, Ashubhesha samavishtam shubheshve avatariyat swamanah purusharthena balena balinamvara ashubhat chalitanyati shubham tasmadapi tarat jantosh chittantu shishuvat tasmat tat chalayat balat. So another very interesting upamana is being given. And one more thing, the way that the Yogavasishtha shlokas are is, if you look at the shloka itself, it may seem very unassuming in the sense that the same thing has been said for 4 shlokas. But if you look at the way that same thing is expressed again, you will find a new angle in. So for those of you that are following Samskrita, you may see that maybe the last 2 shlokas that I have told and maybe the next 2 shlokas I have told they sound very similar in what they are saying. But in each shloka, that is the beauty of Yogavasishtha, is that each shloka will give you something new without you even realizing it. So for example, here again the same thing is being told. You need to push your chitta away from the Ashubha Vasanas and pull it towards the Shubha Vasanas. But here they have given one more example, that Ashubha Chalitanyati Shubham Tasmad Api Tarat. So if it moves away from Ashubha, it will naturally go to Shubha. So what is being told here earlier, what did they say? You need to pull it away from Ashubha and push it towards Shubha, these Vasanas. But now what the Granthakara is saying is, Ashubha Chalitam Shubhayati. So this is actually, sometimes it is not even a twofold effort. So forget about pulling it away from Ashubha and pulling it to Shubha. If you pull it away from Ashubha, it will end up going to Shubha. And the same way, Shubham, Tasmadapi Itarat, if at all by mistake you end up pulling it away from the Shubha Marga, the Vasanas away from the Shubha Marga, it'll naturally default to the Ashubha Marga. So basically what is being told here is, as I said, all Vasanas are only twofold. There is no third genre of Vasana, right? There is only Shubha Vasanas and Ashubha Vasanas. So if you pull it away from one, it will by nature go to the second. So basically what the message here is, you need to be very careful about what it is that you desist from. Because in the case of Vasanas, desisting from one is enough to incite the other. So that is both a pro and a con that Vashishta Maharshi is saying. So this is one thing that many of us experience, that some satkarma will be going on, but we will pull ourselves away from it. Some parana is going on, I cannot sit that long, let it go. Or some puja is going, I am not interested in that, let it go. Or some classes are happening, some retreat, some Vedanta retreat is happening, some Vedanta Patha is happening, that is all too hard, let it go. So what are we doing here? We are distancing ourselves from sadvasana. It is not like we have taken up any bad habits or vices, but distancing yourself from those sadvasanas is enough for asadvasanas to take over. That is what Vashishta Maharshi is saying here. So the difference in what we have said before is, earlier we are saying that you need to pull yourself away from asadvasanas and pull yourself towards sadvasanas. This is almost a warning that Vashishta Maharshi is giving, that be careful that you do not pull away from sadvasanas. So whenever a sadvasana tells you to do something, don't hit the snooze button. Don't wait and say, not now, let's do that later, is it necessary now? Do not pull away from the sadvasanas, because pulling away from the sadvasanas is more or less equated with the asadvasanas grabbing you and taking you away. Because as I said, right, vasanas acting is guaranteed. You cannot stop the vasanas from acting, right? Because you think with your mind, you cannot stop the tendencies of the mind. But what you can choose is, within the tendencies of the mind, which tendencies will you allow, will you let control you. So that is why Vyasa Maharshi is saying, if you can restrain yourself from asadvasanas, that is enough. That will lead you towards sadvasanas. If you have the habit of wasting time watching movies, pull yourself away from that. In the end, it will lead you towards something good. In the same way, if you have the habit of, wasting time or talking too much or getting angry or something, so whatever those vasanas are, if you can slowly pull yourself away from that, right? So as an example, let us say you have a tendency to get angry, right? There is that vasana, that krodha vasana is there. So let us say that tendency of getting angry is very much rooted in your mind. If you can pull yourself away from that, there is no separate practice of acquiring shanti, right? If you want to get the vasana of shanti, of being calm and quiet, it is not like you have to put forth two efforts. One effort to desist from anger and one effort to inculcate shanti, right? So desisting from anger will inculcate shanti. So in this way, desisting from ashubha vasanas is enough to inculcate sadvasanas. That is why Vyasa Maharshi, Vashishta Maharshi here is giving the example, the upamana here as jantosh chittam shishuvat. It is like a child. The mind is very much like a child. So if you see a child, the child only has two parents, mother and a father. If the father says, I will not play with you, where else can the child go? The child will go to the mother. If the child goes to the mother and the mother says, I do not have time for you, where else will the child go? The child will go to the father. There is only, the child has only two places to go, and rejection in one place will mean the obtainment of the other, right? So if the mother says no, it will have to go to the father. If the father says no, it will have to go to the mother. So in that way, just like a child, this mind is in such a state that if you push it away from asadvasanas, it will go to sadvasanas. If you push it away from sadvasanas, it will go to asadvasanas. So that is why Vyasa Maharshi is saying, Prak abhyasa vashat jatah yada te vasanodayah tada abhyasasya saphalyam vidhitvam arimardana. And before that there is one more thing. Samata santvanenashu nadragiti shaneshyanehi paurushena prayatnena lalayet chittavalakam. So again, we are saying that the mind is like a child. So just as a child needs to be coaxed and cajoled, you need to coax and cajole your mind. So this is one more message that is being given in this Yogavasishtha, is that this is also something that as sadhakas we should remember. this change in the mind does not happen overnight. You will not lose all of your asadvasanas and gain all of your asadvasanas in the blink of an eye. This is in the Yoga Sutras also. Sato dirghakala nairantarya satkarasevito dridhabhumihi. So all these yamas, niyamas, all the all the training that the body and mind undergo in yoga. When does it become dridha? When does this yoga become dridha? There Patanjali Maharshi says, Sato dridhakala nairantarya satkarya. So these three are told: dridhakala, nairantarya, satkarya. Dirghakala nairantarya, satkara. The first one that is told is dirghakala. This takes time. This does not happen in 1 day or 2 days. So some months, some years even, depends on the person, right? So for a long time, that abhyasa needs to continue. Then nairantarya, a long time means I took my first class in 2020. I took my second class in 2030. So my Vedanta study has gone for 10 years. That does not count because it is not nirantara. There is a 10-year break in the middle between the first class and the second class. Athato Brahma Jignasa. This sutra was taught on January 2020. Janmadhyasya Yataha. This came in January 2030. If you say I have studied Brahma Sutras for 10 years, will anyone believe that? So it is not, Dirghakala is not all that is here, but Nairantarya, it needs to be regular. Practice needs to be spread over a long period of time and it needs to be regular. There is one more part that is there, that is Satkara. Shraddha needs to be there. You need to have respect for what you are doing. So whatever practices that you are doing, whatever japa, dhyana, puja, parayana, vichara, grantha, whatever it is that you are doing, whatever abhyasa it is that you are doing, you need to have satkara towards that. You need to have respect, reverence for that. So if these three are combined, so dirghakala, nairantarya, satkara, if these three are combined, if you put forth your efforts with reverence, with great respect, for a long time, regularly, that effort will fructify without a doubt. This is not just for yoga. Honestly, this is applicable to anything. This is applicable to studies, this is applicable to relationships, this is applicable to academia. Right? So this goes for everything, even more so when it comes to Adhyatmika Sadhana, even more so when it comes to Sadhana. So, what here Vashishta Maharshi is saying is, Nadrak, this will not happen quickly, Shanei, slowly, Santvanena, you should not be harsh, right? Some people have a tendency that they want to affect some change in their mind. The second something happens that is pratikula, the second something that happens that is contrary to what they wanted, immediately it is a big deal to them. Their mind becomes perturbed. Why is this happening to me? I am fated to be like this forever. Your mind should not be perturbed. You should never take such drastic decisions with your mind. Right? It should be slow, measured steps. Nothing should be taken too seriously. Too seriously in the sense that nothing should be taken as an absolute. So, santvanena, shanehi, chittabalakam lalayet. You should slowly bring that child that is the mind into the path that you want him to be in. And then you may get the question, so when is it that, how can I know that my sadvasanas are fructifying? Right? So when do I know that I have properly pulled myself away from asadvasanas and that my sadvasanas are taking root? So there Vashishta Maharshi is saying, Pragabhyasa vashajjatah yadate vasanodayah tada abhyasasya saphalyam vidhyatvam arimardana. This is almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is what do you say, therapists and all, they call this a self-fulfilling prophecy. So whatever it is that your mindset inculcates, that is what you will usually end up affecting in your life, right? So for example, let us say someone is pessimistic about a relationship. They say this relationship is bad, this is fated to end poorly, they will end up treating me poorly. Let us say this is their mindset. They will behave in such a way that causes the other person to treat them poorly, thereby bringing about the end of the relationship, whether it be with a friend or a loved one or a cousin or a teacher or someone like that. So these are called self-fulfilling prophecies, where the individual will decide something and behave in such a way that causes that situation to take place. So this is usually used in a negative sense, but this is also this can also happen in a positive way if this drawing yourself away from asadvasanas and drawing yourself closer to sadvasanas is practiced properly. So that is what they are saying. Abhyasavasha diri vasanodayah jatah. If you find that without your needing to pull yourself away from asadvasanas, you find yourself driven by the sadvasanas, right? So as we said, as Rama himself said earlier, right, the vasanas will just push you to act. It is our job to just stop before we act and cognize which vasanas are pushing us, right? Because we will eventually have a knee-jerk reaction. The wise man will stop and see what is motivating this action. If a good thought is motivating this action, he will continue with it. If a bad vasana is motivating that action, he will desist from that. So when you are, thinking about what has caused this reaction in me, if you see that by nature itself sadvasanas are taking root in you, if you see that without your effort sadvasanas are pushing you to action, then you can know that you have gotten abhyasasya saphalyam. Then you can know that your practice is working. Because if it is not natural, you need to push it by effort. That is what we said right earlier. Paurushayana prayatnena. By effort, you need to inculcate those sadvasanas. If those sadvasanas are becoming natural to you, then you know that your practice has paid off, your abhyasa has paid off. And then one more thing is said after that. Sandhigdhayam ibhrisham shubhameva samahara shubhayam vasana vruddho tata dosho nakaschana. So there is one more question that you may get. See, you are saying sadvasana, but at the end of the day, vasana is a vasana, right? It is a tendency of the mind, and the mind will lead you to bondage. So, right, the tendency of the very fact that the mind is building tendencies is pushing you to more karma, right? So you can say sadvasanas, but sadvasanas are also pushing you to more karma, right? Someone that is doing dana, that is a karma. Yagas are a karma. Pujas are a karma. So whatever sat karma or whatever action even that your sadvasanas are pushing you to, that will still push you into bondage. So then why should I do it? There they say that shubhayam vasana vruddho nakaschana dosha. There is no dosha in those sadvasanas being there. See, at the very least, you will have a dharmic life. You may not get moksha. At the very least, if you follow the sadvasanas, you will have a dharmic life. By dharma, you will get sukha. So what is the problem there? And then after that, they say that avyutpanna manaha yavat bhavan ajnana tatpadaha guru shastra pramanaistu nirneedam tavadachara. So if you are avyutpanna manaha, so if you are having trouble deciding what is a sadvasana, see, until now we have said, see, there is a sadvasana and an asadvasana. How do we decide what is a sadvasana and asadvasana? First of all, our conscience will usually tell us that, this is good and this is not good. You should do this and you should not do this. Usually the mind will be very straightforward with that. But if, yadi tatra avyutpanna manaha, yadi manaha tatra avyutpannam vartate, tatra tadanim kim karaniyam, then tataha guru shastra pramanai nirnitam achara. Whatever the guru tells you and whatever shastra dictates, that is what you should do. So basically this is what Bhagavan says in Gita, tasmat shastram pramanante karya karyu vyavastito. Therefore the shastra is the meter stick for you in deciding what to do and what not to do. Then tataha, and then as you said, right, so are these sadvasanas supposed to be coddled forever? First follow the sadvasanas. Once you have gotten the sadvasanas, once that has become your nature, then what are you supposed to do? Guru shastra pramanestu nirneedam tavadachara. Tataha pakva kashayena nonam vijñata vastuna shubhopkiso parityajyo vasana ugho nirodhina. So at some point, after getting chitta shuddhi and as a part of these sadvasanas, you will also do Vedanta vichara under the Guru and all of that. At some point, you will get tattva sakshatkara, you will get tattva jnana. At that point, the sadvasanas themselves will leave you. You don't have to leave them. They themselves will go, because the mind itself will attain what is called pravilapa. The mind itself will dissolve. What is a mind? A mind is just the bundle of vasanas and smritis and thoughts. That bundle of thoughts is the manas. And the second, the vasanas and the ajnana that is tying that bundle together is ripped off. Then the mind itself will dissolve. So once you have gotten that jnana, you will not have to worry about these vasanas at all. So in this way, Vashishta Maharshi has very clearly talked about what are sadvasanas, what are asadvasanas, what is the process of forcing the mind into the sadvasana path and away from the asadvasana path. So thus far, we have seen what Yogavasishtha has said. So now, if we look at what Bhagavatpada has said in the same way in Viveka Chudamani, this asadvasana, or is not even asadvasana, but these laukika vasanas have been categorized into 3 categories by Bhagavatpada, into 3 forms. So these vasanas take 3 forms. That is what Bhagavatpada is saying in Viveka Chudamani, 271st shloka, for those of you that want to follow along. Lokanuvartanam tyaktva Tyaktva dehanuvartanam, shastranuvartanam tyaktva, swadhyasapanayam kuru. So there are three words that they have given here. Lokanuvartana, dehanuvartana, shastranuvartana. This is what in Jivan Mukti Viveka. In Vidyaranya Mahaswami's text, Jivan Mukti Viveka, this is what is called Lokavasana, Dehavasana, Shastravasana. The same things are, Vidyaranya Mahaswami has taken it from here only. Here Bhagavatpada has called it Lokanuvartana, Dehanuvartana, and Shastranuvartana. There in Jivan Mukti Viveka, Vidyaranya Mahaswami has called it Lokavasana, Dehavasana, and Shastravasana. So, what are these three? So, this Lokavasana is interest in Laukika Vastus, in worldly objects and affairs. This Shastravasana is, here Chandrasekhara Bharati Mahaswami writes here, Shastranuvartanam nama moksha prayojaka grantha parishilanam vina idara grantha adhyayana. So basically, even within adhyayana, there are two adhyayanas. There is Satshastra and Asatshastra. Even within Satshastra, there are two Shastras, Moksha Upayogi and Moksha Anupayogi. So these Asatshastras are the Nastika Shastras. So they are still Shastras in the sense that they are also Darshanas, they also discuss the nature of the world, they also have some merit to them, some Vichara is done. But at the end of the day, they don't take Veda Pramana, so they cannot give you the Paramapurushartha, which is Moksha. So the remaining Darshanas are what are called Satshastra. There also, there are some that are Mokshopayogi and some that are not Mokshopayogi. The Shastra that is Mokshopayogi, that helps with Moksha, is obviously Vedanta. Everything else does not help with Moksha because their goals are different. For example, Mimamsa. The point of Mimamsa is to discern the meaning of Veda and thereby to ensure that karma is performed properly. So, karma does not give you Moksha. In the same way, Sankhya and all of that. Actually, in this also, here only Bhagavatpada says, Nayogena nasankhyena karmana. So Bhagavatpada says, karma, by karma, Mimamsa is taken, by the word karma, na karmana, Sankhyena, not by Kapil Maharshi's Sankhya, not by Yogena, not by the Chittavritti Nirodha of Yoga. None of these will give you Brahmajnana. You need to do Tattva Vichara. That Tattva Vichara is done in the Vedanta Darshana. So that is what we mean when we say Mokshopayogi Shastra. So all Shastras beside that, Nyaya, Mimamsa, these Shastras all are called Moksha Aprayojaka Shastras. These are Shastras that do not directly contribute to Moksha. So the problem is, though, they are intellectually very satisfying, especially Mimamsa and Nyaya also. They are very intellectually satisfying. As in, there is an intellectual satisfaction to the way of questioning, the way of reasoning, right? The depth of the vicharas that are done. There is a beauty to it. The problem is, for a scholar, it is very easy to get caught up in that dialectical beauty. It is honestly a very respectable thing. There are few that have the heart and the mind to truly appreciate the beauty of Shastra. So this is not Shastra Ninda by any means, but it just does not help you for moksha. Because Bhagavatpada said it, Vadantu Shastrani Yajantu Devataha. You can do as many Shastrathas as you want, you can do as many yagas as you want, but without jnana you will not get mukti for 1,000 kalpas also. So when it comes to moksha, there Shastra has a very limited use. But when it comes to the knowledge of Shastra, that is obviously pujaniya in whatever form it takes. But as far as it goes to helping for moksha, this Shastra Vasana, right, the tendency to just engage in dry Shastra Artha is something that will block you from getting proper Vedanta Jnana. That is actually the whole point of Bhajagovinda, that Nahi Nahi Rakshite Dukri Karane. Many people mistakenly take this to say that Bhagavatpada said that all the study of Shastras and this and the Vakyarthas and all are useless, therefore just Bhajagovindam. Nothing could be farther from the truth, because no one has written Shastra Granthas as well as Bhagavatpada has. So to say that is Bhagavatpada's intent is the height of folly. It is the pinnacle of stupidity. So what Bhagavatpada means there is, you can do as much Shastra Artha as you want, it will not give you Tattva Sakshatkara. That is the meaning there. So here also, this Shastra Anuvartanam is that Itara Grantha Adhyayana. So that you will inculcate that habit of studying and reading and studying and reading and talking. That will not get you moksha, right? It is not part of the actual reduction of avidya. So that is one reason why that Shastra Anuvartana is there. And then Deha Anuvartana. So forget about external objects. This Aham Mama, right? This is my body and Imani Mama Vastuni. And these are all my things. That feeling is there. That is that Deha Vasana. So, Loka Vasanaya Jantoha, Shastra Vasanaya api, Dehavasnaya jnanam yathavan naiva jayate. So as long as these three vasanas are there, so this Lokavasana, Shastravasana and Dehavasana, these three are what are called pratibandhakas. So pratibandhakas, they will stop the karya from happening. So for example, let us say you are drying, you have washed the veshti for the day, you are drying it outside. So the end result is the cloth becoming dry. In the meantime, rain comes. So the rain is a pratibandhaka. It is stopping the cloth from drying. In the same way, these three vasanas also, these three types of vasanas will prevent jnana from coming. Because what is the jnana that needs to come? I am Shuddha Chaitanya. This Shuddha Chaitanya is bereft of vastus. It is bereft of the Laukika Sambandhas and it is bereft of the Deha. So the Loka Vasana of vastus, the Shastra Vasana of study and the Deha Vasana of this body and mind are all things that are completely contrary to the jnana that needs to be gotten. So the other thing to note here is that these three vasanas, you cannot satisfy these three. Right? So the Loka Vasana, the desire for external objects, that will keep going. Shastra Vasana, the desire to keep reveling in that Vidya, that will keep going. The Deha Vasana, the feeling of I-ness, that Abhimana in this body will keep going. Because this Deha Vasana accumulates over Janmas. That is why in the Yoga Sutras also, is one word used called Abhinivesha. Usually in Sanskrita, Abhinivesha means Utsaha or also proficiency in something. So those kinds of words are used to mean Abhinivesha or some desire to do something. These are all called Abhinivesha. But there what it means is Vidusham api Swarasavahi. So there is a natural tendency to all beings, a natural fear of death that is programmed into all beings. And there in the Vyakhya, for those Yoga Sutras they write, the Vyakhya writes there that what is the reason that Vasana is there, that fear is there, because that fear can be seen even from the most small of creatures, right? Some bugs and insects and all, up to elephants and tigers and lions. All of them are equally afraid of death. Forget about animals, humans also, right? Even a child fears death, an old man fears death, and everyone in the middle also fears death. So what is the cause of this? The cause is the samskara of death, right? So there is, from the Purva Janmas, the tendency to fear death has been programmed into every being. See, the Shubha Vasanas will change, right? Some people will like Dana, some people like Kshetra Yatra, some people will like studying things, some people will like eating, some people will like sleeping. These will change from Jiva to Jiva. But the fact that life is good, death is bad, fear death, love life, this is common to all Jivas. And that comes from the Deha Vasana, right? Because when we say death and life, that is of the body. We don't want the body to die, and we don't want the body to die, and we want the body to live. So this Deha Vasana only strengthens across time. So that is why, as long as these three are there, Loka Vasana, Shastra Vasana and Deha Vasana, these three cannot be quelled, in the sense that they will keep going if you let them keep going. That is why the Jagadguru writes in the Vyakhya here, Idam to Jevan Mukti Viveke Vasanakshaya Prakarane Vidyaranya Guru Charanehi Vistarana Upayatam Holokam Aradhayatam Samarthaha iti. So who can make these three contented, these three vasanas contented? That is not at all possible. So that is why later on here some more examples are given, but in the interest of time we'll maybe look at one or two more shlokas and finish up. Now that is why, to sum up these three vasanas, one shloka has been told by Bhagavatpada. Samsara karagraha moksha mikshoha ayomayam pada nibaddha shrunkhalam vadanti tajñāh patu vasanatrayam yosmad vimukta samupayiti muktim. So if you look at the chains that are usually attached to prisoners, they are woven, right? So it is not like it will be one line. The chains will be woven together. So these three vasanas are woven together to become a pada nibaddha shrunkhalam, chains tied to the feet of the jiva. And where is it tying the jiva? Samsara karagrahe. He is being tied in the prison of samsara. Samsara karagraha moksha mikshoha. If someone wants to, or someone wishing to get rid of this samsara karagraha, this prison of samsara, he needs to get rid of these three vasanas. Yaha asmad vimuktaha, vasanatrayad vimuktaha, saha muktim samupayati. So the getting rid of these three vasanas is what mukti is. That the removal of avidya, the removal of identification with the body, which is essentially what these three vasanas boil down to, is what will get you mukti. So then they say then that the mukti, the moksha is always present. That is one more thing. So when you will get mukti, mukti is not something that is karya, in the sense that mukti is not made. Mukti exists. It is realized, right? Because the swarupa of the jiva is that which is mukta, nitya shuddha buddha mukta svabhava, we say. Right? So the jiva is actually always free. The bondage is only apparent. It is not real. Right? So then why is it that mukti is not apparent? That is why there is one shloka here. Antashritananda duranta vasana dhuli vilipta paramatma vasana prajnati sangharshanato vishuddha pratiyate chandana gandhavat sputa. Beautiful shloka. So there is a paramatma vasana inside, as in there is an awareness of the paramatma that is there, right? That ahamityantas parantam sada, that ahankara, that aham, that sense of I-ness, that is basically the swarupa of the atma, that is there, but it is covered by dust, the dust of duranta vasana, or by all these vasanas. It is dusted over. So what do you need to do? Prajnati sangharshanataha. With prajna, with your intellect, you need to continually rub against that until all the dust goes. And at that point, the ananda of mukti will become apparent. So it is not like ananda will come then. The ananda that exists, once the covering of the durvasanas go away, it will spread. Right? And the example that Bhagavatpada is given very beautifully is Chandana Gandhavat Sputa. So, Chandana on its own, right? This the block of Chandana does not have any particular fragrance. It will smell, maybe you can barely get the smell, but it is not as fragrant as the Chandana Lepa, so as the sandalwood paste. So, just as by rubbing the sandalwood, eventually that smell comes out. We cannot say that the smell has been produced because the Chandana has that svabhava in it. It is the nature of the Chandana to be fragrant. It is only that once you have rubbed it against that surface, whatever was in the Chandana that was holding the scent back has been gotten rid of, and the scent is now very obvious and apparent. So in the same way, the jnana is there, that mukta svabhava, that mukti swarupa is there. It is only covered by the vasanas, and through this practice of vichara, and as you said earlier, that process of diverting the asadvasanas into sadvasanas and all that, if that rubbing is continuously done, at that point the durvasanas will go and the paramatma vasana will be cleared. That is why, as one final shloka, what we can say here is that yatha yatha pratyagavasthitam manah tatha tatha munchati bahya vasanaah nishesha mokshe sati vasananam atmanubhutif pratibandha shunya. So what have we said here before? These three vasanas, this Deha Vasana, Shastra Vasana and Loka Vasana, these are pratibandhakas to jnana. They, as long as they are there, jnana should be happening, but it will keep being blocked by these three. But once that goes, right, once these vasanas go, moksha will happen. How does that happen? Yada yada manaha pratyagavasthitam. The more and more that the mind turns inwards, tatha tatha munchati bahya vasanaha. So and so it will get rid of the bahya vasanas. The more the mind turns inward, the more detached from the vasanas it will become. So at that point, once the mind becomes completely inward, then completely all vasanas will be lost. And at that point, Atmanubhutihi, the experience of the Atma, the experience of the Sachidananda Swarupa of the Atma, is then Pratibandha Shunya. There is nothing blocking it, there is no obstacle to it. So in this short span of 1 hour or so, in whatever time we have had and whatever capacity I was able to convey, we have seen how these two spans of Yogavasishtha and Viveka Chudamani complement each other. So in Yogavasishtha we have seen how the mind has two swabhavas of the Shubhavasanas and Ashubhavasanas, and the importance of pulling our mind away from the Ashubhavasanas towards the Sadvasanas. And in Viveka Chudamani we have seen the nature of those asadvasanas and the actual practices that we can do, the way that those vasanas manifest, and the actual practice that will lead us away from the Ashubha vasanas. So I think that should conclude this session. If we have more time in the future, we can look at many more such overlaps. So both of these texts, Yogavasishtha and Viveka Chudamani, are both excellent texts for sadhakas that wish to know how to conduct sadhana. They are both very dear texts to the Jagat Guru. And as we have seen, they are very much in sync in terms of the matters that they are telling. So with the blessings of the Jagat Gurus, let us definitely try to study both texts, and if time permits, in future sessions we can cover more. इत्येषा वाङ्मयी पूजा श्रीमच्छङ्करपादयोरर्पिता तेन देवेशः प्रियतां मे सदाशिवः तव तत्त्वं न जानामि कीदृशोऽसि महेश्वर यादृशोऽसि महादेव तादृश